guys, this is Miss Flores, and this is our first flipped classroom video, and this is for Unit 1, Nature of Life. So we're going to begin. I'd like you to take a look at this diagram, this visual here, and kind of just answer to your computer at home what you think that is. If you know what it is, talk about where you know it from. So now that you've answered at home, to the screen, let's talk about it. So this entire molecule is pretty well known. We see it in lots of comic book characters, Spider-Man, X-Men. It is known as DNA. And if you remember, it's the Na represents nucleic acids, and that's one of the 4 biomolecules that make up all living things. So DNA is one of the 4 biomolecules. And if you remember when we talked about living things, all living things are made of cells, and all the cells have this DNA. So within cells. So the DNA within plants, the DNA within animals, the DNA within bacteria, it's all the same structure known as DNA. So we're going to take a look at this more in depth. So here's the visual, kind of break up and understand the parts of DNA. So this is called a nucleotide. And a nucleotide is made of 3 parts, 1, 2, and 3. So part number 1 is called a phosphate group. Okay? And part number 2 is easy to remember because of the shape. So if you look at this, a ring-shaped, pentagon-shaped image, that is a sugar. And if you remember the biomolecule carbohydrate, they typically have this ring-shaped structure. So this is a sugar molecule. And then the third part of a nucleotide is a base. And there are 4 bases total. So this rectangle would be one of 4 bases. Okay? So the entire structure is a nucleotide, and it's made of 3 parts, a phosphate group, a sugar, and 1 single base. So I'm going to connect this to the entire structure of DNA. If you take a look at this image, it's lots of nucleotides on the screen. Nucleotide 1, nucleotide 2, and so on, for a total of 8. So, and again, we have those 3 parts. We have a phosphate group, a sugar, again, that ring is going to be your hint, and a nitrogenous base here. So the first screen showed DNA, but it did not show the parts that make up DNA. So that's here, right? So some terms that we'll want to remember is monomer. Monomer is relating to the Greek word mono for 1. So here is 1 monomer, a nucleotide. So each circle represents 1 monomer. The entire structure, I'm going to draw a bracket here, represents a polymer. And poly, relating to the Greek word for many. Monomer versus polymer. 1 part to many parts. Another way to remember the structure of DNA is with a mnemonic device. So the term mnemonic is just a fancy word for kind of a phrase. Okay? So if you remember on the previous slide, we talked about that there were 4 nitrogenous bases. These are the 4. So A, T, G, C. And therefore the chemical bases called adenine, thymine, guanine, and cytosine. Okay, adenine, thymine, guanine, and cytosine. And there's some phrases that students can use kind of tool to help them on the test. So if I was taking a test, I would remember alto, tall, gato, cat. A pairs with T, G pairs with C. I could remember apples in trees, garages, or cars. Whatever phrase you want to come up with, you could come up with your own. That's a great testing strategy. You can write this on your test when you're taking it. A, T, G, C, alto, tall, gato, cat, apples in trees, garages in cars, and it will give you a kind of hint for remembering how the DNA pairs up. So I hope that helped. Good night.